Hey, what's up you guys? Yes, I'm Kristina from Leafy Luster, and today I want to hit reset on some of my plants. In last week's video I purged a few plants from my collection, and I also found some that need some fixing up to do, so I will take care of that today. Let's go! I have found some plants in my collection that are in desperate need for some TLC because sometimes just dusting them off and watering them isn't cutting it. These plants have greatly suffered through winter or my personal neglect, or they just have outgrown their moss poles and spaces. I have been ignoring these issues expertly for way too long now, but with spring around the corner it's the perfect timing to finally do something about it and get my plant shit together. First up is this Scindapsus pictus that got way too long. She is mostly producing runners or very small leaves. Might be due to winter, might also be that she is root bound. Due to some inconsistent watering on my part, she is also losing a lot of leaves on the top. Whenever that happens, she gets yellow leaves and then they fall off. So overall, she is not looking too hot. Bald on the top and bald on the bottom. Great combo. Next I have my Philodendron White Princess, and just look at her. I mean, do I need to say more? What is this? What? I don't know. She is just growing weird, and down here she also lost a few leaves. She has pretty awesome genetics, but unfortunately those very white leaves or these half moon leaves end up browning like this and then dying later on. So now she's kind of bald in this space, and yeah, it just doesn't look good. Lastly, I have this Monstera variegata, and she grew extremely well until one day she reached the end of the moss pole. And whenever this happens with Monstera sandliana and they don't have anything to climb on, they are just producing runners, no leaves, and this is just not a good look. You just cannot keep these plants without any sort of pole. Since I successfully ignored this problem as well, I am now left with this mess of a runner. And no leaves on there, it just is not the vibe. Alrighty, since these plants cannot be fixed easily anymore, I will have to resort to more drastic measures. Few options to fix our plants. Number one, if you have a balding plant, just propagate some of the ends and then replant into the same pot. This way you will get a fuller look again. Number two, you can obviously restart the plant by propagating and cutting it short, propagating the rest of the plant, and then keep the mature growth of the plant going. Since I have multiples of these plants and I also decided to purge some of them, I will not be hesitant today to cut them back radically and also just propagate as much as I can to sell later on. For this Scindapsus, I will check the roots and propagate all of this stuff. Okay, so first issue, we already have a lot of water in here. I watered her yesterday, but still, because that's how you get root rot. First, let's just chop the most part of it off, and I will do it up top. Just cut anywhere between two nodes. So we're just left with this little pot right here. Now let's check the roots. Okay, the roots look actually quite healthy and not root bound, which is nice. I don't like these kind of pots anyway, so I will just replant into a new one. And we have some quite substantial rootage right here. Filling the pots a little bit and then planting back in. Trim off any dead leaves. Still a bit ugly, but better than before. As for the rest of these vines, I will now take single node cuttings. You can just cut between two nodes right here, and then the new growth will come from here. You already can see a aerial root on here. Clean your scissors beforehand and then just chop away. If the stem gets too long on one side, you could easily trim it a little more. These are all our single node cuttings. It's quite a bit actually. And now looking something like this. We also have a few leafless nodes. Time to put them in water. All done with the water propagations. I'm going to propagate only in water today. It's the most space efficient method and also it's easy and it always works for me. Only exception are the single node leafless cuttings. So these I want to put in a moss container. I have some remoistened sphagnum moss in there and then I'm just going to lay or throw all of these in there. So it looks kind of like noodles in moss. I don't know, that's not a good comparison, but it looks like this. Close it and forget it. And by forget it, I mean I'm going to put it in my bright and warm grow shelf and then forget it there. Moving on to some fun Edward Scissorhand action, I want to cut up this Philodendron White Princess into pieces. I did not air layer beforehand because I find that these root quite well in water, perlite and moss alike. I will clean my scissors though with some ethanol. Well, let's bring you in a little. It's quite easy. You see the nodes with some aerial roots right here and right here, for example. So I will just cut in between. Same here. Here are two nodes actually. These are quite close together, so I will have to be precise with that. Here goes nothing. I'm going to leave this cutting as one. Smell, you guys. The smell is insane. Cutting a leafless node. You see the genetics on this plant are so good. The stem really is half white, half green, really stripy. So these are going to be pretty good propagations, I think. This one has quite an aerial root already. For these down here, I will just remove the leaves so I can cut more easily. Last one I will just leave as is. I'm quite excited how the propagations will look like because the genetics on these are pretty good in my opinion, so it's gonna be really exciting to see them grow up. I will also just plop them in water. You could leave them out to dry a little bit to callus over, but I usually am too impatient to do it and it works either way. We have a little water propagation. And then the stem pieces I will also, I will put into a little container with moss. Proceeding with the cosplay as a garden shredder, I will now cut off this runner of this Monstera standliana. The roots really grew into the moss pole, which is kind of cool. It looks a little sad like this. Here the moss pole ended, so these leaves got smaller and smaller and then eventually just no leaves at all. You can easily cut between the nodes. Same goes for the runner, obviously. This plant has really good genetics as well. You can see the white on the stem. I'm really excited for the props. Look at how ugly this bottom part is. The roots from the moss pole look kind of gross. We already have some roots from higher up nodes. I will have to dig this one out. I guess this plant would look really cool like climbing on a wood pole because it grows so symmetrically. Left, right. Maybe I might grow one on a plank one day. Same thing, I will just chop in between the nodes and make little single node cuttings. Same goes for the runner. Look at this variegation, it's really nice. We've got quite some propagation of this as well. I'm running low on jars. This will have to do. quite crowded in there. And I think for those leafless nodes, I will also just put them in here and see how it goes. We have those two. This last piece is potted up as well. This one already had a root attached. So here are all of my cuttings. I already know that once these are rooted and I will have to pot them up, I will have a lot of trouble finding space for them. But that is the problem of future Kristina and not me. Right now I'm feeling pure satisfaction that I finally took care of all of this. On that note, please tell me I'm not the only one ignoring plant problems until I can't ignore them anymore. So please let me know in the comments which plant to-dos you are procrastinating on at the moment, so I can feel a little bit better about myself. If you're into propagations, I will leave this playlist right here for you to watch next. I'll see you next time. Until then, enjoy your plants and goodbye!